ESM. So the link that is on the graduation checklist for all of you is the same link that's here, and it'll take you to the Liberal Studies website, specifically the page that has the ESM application and that has the instructions for the application. So I'm gonna follow that link. This opened up in Internet Explorer, whether it opens up for you in Explorer, whether it opens up in Google Chrome, Safari, whatever, it should take you to this same page. I'm always going to close that little chat. So the application instructions, so this is just a brief overview of kind of our process. So we want you to download the application and save it to your computer. That's the most critical step. And I know it sounds like duh, but it's one that tricks a lot of people. So I am going to go through that more specifically in a minute, but I just want to go through our main process to begin with. After you complete the form, so you filled it out, you save it, you want to email it to liberalstudies@csub.edu, and we want you to email it to us as an attachment. And again, we'll go over that more thoroughly in a minute. One of us will evaluate your application, and what that consists of is we run your transcript, we have your application, we have to double check that you took all the correct courses, that you earned all the correct grades, and then we forward our evaluation to our program director. He reviews it and then sends it back to us, where we can generate a response to you. There's different responses. There's a denial, there is an ineligible, there is an 80% letter, and then there's a 100% letter. So each one means something different. The video here does go over what those responses mean a little bit. This is really more about what the ESM waiver is, not necessarily how to fill out the application, which is what we'll be covering today. But I do recommend, if you have any questions about ESM and what it is, to watch this video, and then you can also view the frequently asked questions on our website. Down here, though, is the link to the actual application. And there's a little note again to download it and save it first. So I'm going to click it, and you'll notice it opens the PDF, but it opens it inside of the web browser, which if you start typing in your information and then you save it to your computer, it's going to actually save a blank copy. So it's really important to save it to your computer and then open it in Adobe before you start filling it out. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So in Internet Explorer, I'm going to right click, save as. I'm just going to go to my desktop, save. It's telling me it already exists because I did this yesterday. I'm going to select yes. And then again, it opens it in the web browser. So for some people, when you start typing this in, it's actually saving it to your desktop, but for a lot of people, it doesn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize my web browser. I'm going to get out of my PowerPoint real quick, and I'm going to go to the actual waiver on my desktop that I just saved. And I'm going to right click and tell it to open with Adobe Acrobat. You may not have Adobe Acrobat DC, you may not have Acrobat Pro, you may not have like the most like fancy version, which is okay. If you just have the basic Adobe Acrobat, that will work. And as you can see, a lot of these tools won't be there for you depending on what version of Adobe you have, but you will see that it's in Adobe Acrobat. This is when you can start typing in the information. And then as you go, you want to continuously save it as you go. We have had, and I'll talk about this in a minute, but we've had a lot of blank applications submitted, you know, and it's an easy mistake, a simple mistake to make. So that's why we want to say it again and again and again. Make sure you're saving as you go, and make sure when you're attaching it that you're opening it and make sure it's filled out. So there are 2 pages to the application. The first page is just your information. So your name, ID number, the date, your email address. So whatever email address you plan to send us the application from, we recommend that you fill in the same email, so make a match. Just because sometimes when we're trying to look back at the email that you sent, we have to search by your email address, and it just makes it easy if it's already on the application. Phone number, so that's more if we have any questions, If there's any errors on the application, we can call you and get it corrected. Mailing address, just for our records, graduation semester and year. So we want you to fill out what term and what year you plan to graduate. So fall 2020, spring 2021, summer 2021, fall 2021, whatever it is, fill that in there. ESM application, so we want to know, is this your first submission? So is this a brand new application? Or is this a resubmission? So on your graduation checklist, there's 2 submissions. We're telling you to submit at the beginning of your last semester and then at the end when your grades post. So depending on which one it is, you're going to check the appropriate box. We also want to know if you're from the Bakersfield main campus or if you're from our Antelope Valley campus, because there are some differences there. Next, we want to know what semester and year do you plan to apply for the credential program. And we want to know this information so we can prioritize. For those of you who may be starting sooner, we want to make sure we're getting your application processed. So if you're starting spring 2021, you would plug that in, fall 2021, spring 2022, etc. And then we are curious to know, are you going to be pursuing the credential at CSUB? If so, are you going to do multiple subject or special ed? And then if you're not going to be at CSUB, or you're just not sure and you're not going to apply at this time, which is okay too. You can still submit the ESM application, even if you're going to be taking a break from school in between your bachelor's and credential. The last question on this page is, we just want to know if you've completed the CBEST. Have you taken and passed it? Do you have an alternative completed? Like I mentioned earlier, SAT, ACT scores, certain scores could exempt you from taking the CBEST. Maybe you've taken the test, but you don't have your scores yet, or maybe you just have it scheduled. This is here not because you have to have the CBEST completed to get the ESM waiver, but it's really here to remind you that that's something you have to do in order to get into credential. That's what that's there for. The next section of the first page is just a huge explanation of what ESM is. We do recommend that you read through it. I'm not going to bore you, I'm not going to read it for you right now because you guys can definitely view that later. It is important to know that at this point in time, we're only reviewing students who started at CSUB fall 2015 or after. So if you started in 2013 or 2014, as of right now, you're not eligible to apply. But if any of you are in that situation, please let us know and we can talk about that. So yeah, so that's the end of that. Next, oh, the other thing which is super important, it was actually a question in chat, is how long until you guys get a response. And so we have a 6 to 8 week turnaround. And it really is that long because the 3 of us are doing the evaluations while we are also teaching classes, we're also advising 1,000 students. So, sometimes you can get a response in a week. Sometimes it takes the full 6 to 8 weeks. It really just depends on how busy we are. So, so just know that we are working hard to get them done and to get them out to you guys. All right, second page, which is probably the most overwhelming to look at, but we assure you it's really simple, especially if you have your outline next to you. When we created this form, this application, we really base it off of the outline so that it's the most easy or the easiest way for you guys to fill it out. So what this first column is this is a list of all of the courses that the CTC approved for our ESM waiver. So a student has to take all of these classes and they have to receive a C- or better in all of them in order to receive 100% waiver for the CSAT. And so what we want to know is for English 1109, which is a class that the state requires, we want to know what semester and year did you take this? Was it fall 2016? Was it fall 2015? Whatever. We also want to know what grade did you get, right? And all that information should be on your outline because we list what course did you take, what term did you take it. We also list the number of units, which you don't have to put, and then your grade for the class. This column is the course equivalent substitution column. So for those of you who are native to CSUB, you've only attended CSUB, more than likely you're not going to fill out the majority of this column. Those of you who are transfer students, you guys will be filling out quite a few courses in this column. So Bakersfield College, we get a ton of transfers from BC. This class, you guys took English B1A, right? So it's the equivalent to English 1109, but technically it's not exactly 1109 because you didn't take it at CSUB. So we just want you to list it here. This last column is for our use. This is when we're pulling your transcript. This is our way to put a yes or a no in each of these as we're checking everything. So you guys are going to leave this column completely blank and we'll fill that out. But we want you to fill in these other columns and rows to the best of your ability. For English 3109, so that is the course that the CTC approved. However, we know on our outline, we have the options of English 3109, 3119, and COM 3008. Both English 3119 and COM 3008 were approved as equivalent courses. So for those of you who may have taken that instead, you would just then plug that in here and leave it at that. And there's a spreadsheet that we will share with you guys in a moment too that has our approved course transfer courses from some of our more local feeder colleges like Bakersfield College, Taft College, Porterville College, COS, things like that. So we'll share that spreadsheet with you guys in a moment.
Dina, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
In the course equivalent / substitution column, it says up there that we have to attach a course syllabus. If these were taken in the past from a different college, how would we find the course syllabi for that column?
Yeah, great question. So in a minute too, because we have so many transfer students that have these questions, I'm going to show you that spreadsheet that I was talking about. And then I'm also going to show you guys a way to look at your transfer credit report on your MyCSUB to show if the course is equivalent. Because if the university has already deemed that the course is equivalent, we don't need a syllabus, we don't need a course description, we don't need any of that. But if it's not a direct equivalency, then we do need those additional documents. And the way that you do that, it's kind of a pain in the butt, but you have to contact the institution that you took the course at, and then you have to contact the specific program. So say it's a biology class. You need to contact the biology department at that school and ask them for a syllabus. It doesn't necessarily have to be from the teacher that you took it with necessarily, but whatever's going to give us the most information, because our program director reviews the syllabus of any alternative course that's not approved to see if the content matches that of what the state requires.
Okay, thank you. So if it's a course that is equivalent, then we don't have to include that, just anything outside of that requirement?
Correct.
Okay,
right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm going to pull up that spreadsheet in just a minute, and that's going to help probably clear up a lot, especially if it's from one of our local feeder schools. Otherwise, man, we'd be getting syllabi for, for all kinds of classes all the time. All right, so down here, just like this last column on the right is for our use, this entire bottom section, so area 9, the concentration, that's for us to fill in, so you'll leave it blank. And then this entire section down here as well, you leave blank because we're gonna fill all that out when we're doing the evaluation. So that's it for going over the form, but I did want to share with you guys the that spreadsheet that I was talking about. So I'm going to go to our Liberal Studies website, and then under ESM waiver, and then ESM resources, there is for transfer students, approved transfer courses. So if you click there, it opens up this spreadsheet, and this will tell you exactly. So English 1109 is required. If you went to Antelope Valley College, the equivalent is English 101. If you went to BC, it's English B1A. If you went to PC, Porterville College, is English P101A. So if the course is on this list, we do not need the syllabus, we don't need the course description, we don't need any additional information. It's already pre-approved, okay? If it's not on this list, so say you transferred in from Northridge, right, another university, or it's not one of these community colleges specifically, there is a place in your My CSUB under your Student Center. You hit this drop down, you can go to something called your Transfer Credit Report, and that allows you to view your courses that you transferred in, and to the right, it will tell you if it transferred in as an elective, as just a GE requirement, or as a specific course. And all these types of questions too that are very specific, or if you're not sure, please know we're not going to not process your application, right? If we need additional information, if the course isn't automatically approved and you didn't get the syllabus, we're going to reach out to you and we're going to let you know that we need additional information. That's why we request that you give us your phone number and contact information. So moving on, so frequent issues, like I've said probably 100 times, and I'm sorry, but please submit it as a PDF only. We have had students convert it to like a Word document, then fill it out and submit it, and that messes with the formatting. We've had students like print it, hand fill it out, scan it back in. So if you can, to the best of your ability, follow the instructions like I just went over, opening it in Adobe Acrobat to complete it, saving it, and then submitting it as a PDF. The other issue is blank applications. So like I said, if you're filling it out and then saving it, sometimes it'll save a blank application and then you're just attaching that. So what I recommend is whenever you're about to send the email, put the attachment in the email, but then click it to open it to make sure it's the one that's fully filled out. Correct email address. So I know between the three of us, we've had people email the applications to us directly, but we do ask that you only send it to liberalstudies@csub.edu because that's the shared email between the three of us, and we can review it a lot faster that way so it doesn't get lost in our personal emails. And then we also receive a lot of incomplete applications. So I'm not talking like you miss one row. I'm talking like sometimes they'll put their name and then everything else is blank. So we do ask that you do the best that you can to fill it out completely. But just know, again, if you make a mistake, we're going to try to fix it and get you to, as close to 100% as we can, right? Because we're going to pull your transcript, we're going to see what you've taken. But we definitely want you to do your due diligence to fill it out to the best of your ability. Next up, frequent follow-up questions. Like I mentioned earlier, there is the FAQ link on our website. So that has a lot of the frequently asked questions. One of the ones that I don't think is on there, but that we do want to address is if the ESM waiver can be used at another school. So say you're not going to do the credential at CSUB, but you want to go to Fresno State or Northridge or whatever. Yes, the ESM waiver that CSUB will give you if you're eligible, that 100% letter, you can take that to any CTC approved program in California. So any program that the CTC gives their stamp of approval to should accept our 100% ESM waiver. However, there is an additional signature that you have to get. So when we send you your 100% letter, hypothetically, it's going to have our signature, and then it's going to have our program director's signature, and then there'll be an additional signature line for the credential analyst. If you're going to be attending at CSUB, you don't need to get that credential analyst signature because you're already here, we already have your records and everything. If you're going to be going anywhere else, any other institution besides CSUB, you have to obtain the credential analyst signature, and that signature is from Stephanie Prelip, and there's her email address. And it is your guys' responsibility to contact her to get that signature. It's not something that we're going to do for you just because it's going to be too hard for us to keep track of who's doing what. So it's really important to know that if you need to do that extra step, that you're getting it done. And believe me, your institution that you're applying to credential will remind you that you need that additional signature. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing, see how we're doing and for questions. And actually, real quick before we do that, just to remind you guys about the walk-ins. So like Sonia had mentioned, we'll be starting walk-in hours every Monday, every Wednesday during the fall semester. And this information will be posted on our website probably by the end of the week so that you guys can view it there. And these are really more for like if you have additional questions, right? If there's something that you just need like 10 to 15 minutes for, come to the walk-ins, utilize those, because we're trying to avoid you guys making full hour-long appointments since we covered so much here in the workshop today. And then just to let you guys know, the walk-ins, the way that it works is it's a Zoom meeting. We have a waiting room, and as you guys come into the waiting room, you're put in a queue. And then we bring you guys in from the queue one at a time on a first come, first serve basis. So you may experience some wait time, but you're just on a computer waiting. So hopefully you can, I don't know, do some homework or watch a movie or something while you're waiting. And we try to get to you guys quickly. Usually it's not too long of a wait time, but on our really busy days, when we're approaching the end of the time block, 8 to 10 or 4 to 6, we may close the meeting. So if you go to try to click on it and it says it's closed, that just means we already have too many people in the queue to add anyone else. And we just ask that you try on the following walk-in day. And then just a social media plug, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can follow us on any of those platforms. And, you know, we post updates there all the time. Anything we email to you guys, for the most part, we're also posting on social media. If we ever have to cancel walk-ins, if we have a last minute meeting we have to go to, we will post on social media about that as well. All right, back to questions. How are we doing, ladies?
There was one. Okay, so once you get the ESM waiver, so the 100% letter, like you don't have to use it right away, but once you have it, you have it. There's no expiration as of right now. Like as long as we have the program, we're good. So let's say you want to take a semester off or a year off, you can use that same letter to later apply to the credential program. And once you have the 100% letter, you have the 100% letter. It's going to have our signature, it's going to have our program director's signature, so it'll be like official. And then we had another question from Ali. Just to clarify, we can have our school site administrator fill out the EDTE 3000 waiver and email it to Jamie Barton. Yeah, no, email is good. And I think it'll be much faster. Any other questions here?
I have a question. Throughout the thing, I heard about the EDT 3000 or 4000 waiver. I'm not exactly, what exactly is that? Or was that have to do anything with the with the actual waiver that we were talking about?
So that's a separate waiver for a course specifically. So Angela, I can't remember what track you're on, but depending on the student's track, if you're on a multiple subject track or if you're planning to pursue and earn the multiple subject credential later on, and actually single subject as well, there's a course that you have to take that's called EDTE 3000 for our CSUP credential. And so the credential program has a waiver for that if a student is already working at a school site, like if they have done that stuff already. So that's what we're talking about for that particular class. For those of you who are doing special education, that wouldn't necessarily apply to you because they have different prereq courses for that program.
All right, so it's just for people who actually are working at the school site. They can get a waiver for that, for the hours.
Right. So like I said, because the point of the class is to get you in a classroom setting for about 45 hours. So if you have a paid position, you're working with K through 6, K through 8 kids, or high school if you're going to be doing single subject, and you can get someone to verify those hours and fill out the form for you, then there's a potential to waive the class. There's also sometimes students can get it waived with like hours at different sites like the after school programs or the Boys and Girls Club, but still kind of the same thing. You're working with that population, you're doing academic related activities with them, things like that. Any other questions from anyone? You guys have great questions, by the way.
So we have, what is happening? Sorry, I think my dog is like going through my mini blinds. So let's see. We did have a question about, okay, so if you're finishing in the summer, when do you submit the ESM and when to resubmit? So if you're still planning on a fall, if starting credential in the fall semester, so that would still mean that the deadlines are going to be the same. So for fall, the deadline is going to be July. I always have to think backwards. I'm really bad at this. So the deadline would still be July to apply to the credential program. And then even though you're still going to be taking classes in the summer, EDTE, because I think, Jessica, I think I did yours. So EDTE 4100 and 4200 are not part of the ESM waiver. So you can still submit it now. So you can submit your ESM waiver now. By September, we'll have your results to you. And then you can still apply for a fall credential. And then you would resubmit, so you would resubmit at the same time, so December, once your final grades post. Because again, I think the final 2 classes that you need aren't part of the credential, or I'm sorry, aren't part of the ESM waiver. So you don't need that for waiver purposes. We do use them for the concentration piece, but we would just have to take a look at the other classes that you've completed in order to see if we can create a different concentration. If you took Education B24 at BC, it will waive the EDTE. So Education B24 at BC is EDTE 3000. So that would be the class, like you're good there. Oh, Araceli, sorry, you already answered that. Let's see. For the ESM waiver, if we filled it out and we did not fill out the course equivalent, should we redo it and resend it again or wait until we're contacted? I would wait until you're contacted because we do try to take what you put together, and if there are adjustments that need to be made, we can do that. So you don't need to resubmit for like a minor update. So you should be okay. And if you do get the results and something seems weird, feel free to contact us and let us know. So if you catch any mistakes or anything like that, like feel free to bring it to our attention, just in case. Because of course when we take a look at these typically during like peak advising time. So it's very possible that we can make a mistake. If something looks weird, just feel free to reach back out. First day of registration for the winter. It's usually
The same as spring. So same as spring, October 26th. So you guys, well, that's the first day, right? So that's the first day of registration for spring and winter, October 26th. But I think, like I said, I think it'd be best to look for those classes to see what they're actually offering during like the 2nd or 3rd week of October. Just because if you start looking now, there's not going to be anything listed because departments and stuff are still trying to figure out what they'll be offering. I think we're caught up in the chat questions. Anyone else have questions? You can chat, you can unmute yourself, whatever you feel comfortable doing.
I'm sorry, another question. So we might be eligible to like start applying for next semester. I mean, for like looking for classes if we just do the graduation, if we apply for the graduation thing, right? Sorry.
Are you saying if you submit your application for graduation, you can start looking for classes?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can start looking anytime. Like if you go right now, you'll see there are some classes for spring, but barely any. But we definitely recommend after October 1st to start putting your shopping cart together, start looking for the classes you need for spring. And then, like I said, the first day of registration will be October 26th. But this upcoming Monday, September 21st, is the deadline to submit your application for spring and summer graduation. So definitely get that submitted because that's going to bump up your registration date and time, which is a good thing. It'll ensure that you hopefully get the classes that you need.
I have a question. So for the CBES, I noticed on the ESM waiver, it says CBES taken and passed. Well, for example, like I took it and passed. Do I need to submit anything with the ESM waiver that I did pass it, or because I did do it online via like the computer, does CSUB automatically get my scores, or how does that work?
Great question. So for ESM purposes, we don't need you to submit any verification of that. We just want you to check the box. But for the credential program, if CSUB doesn't already have your scores, then you will need to submit a copy of the email that you received saying that you passed it. You can use those basically as your official scores. So for anyone who's going to take the CBES or who has, they will send you an email showing that your scores, and if it says passed, make sure you keep that email because that's going to be your proof of passage when you're applying to credential, when you're applying for a substitute teaching position or a teaching position. They're going to be wanting that. So make sure you keep it in a safe place. Any other questions? And like I said, too, you know, for those of you who may have some questions but don't feel comfortable asking here, utilizing our walk-ins will be super helpful during the fall semester. We're hoping, so anyone who registered for the workshops this week, if and when you receive an advising hold, it's going to be lifted because you registered for one of these workshops. So you will not have to make a one-on-one advising appointment. We're asking you guys not to, not because we don't want to see you, but because there's just so many of you guys. And like I said, we're doing those walk-ins. So you're still hopefully feeling like we're accessible, still hopefully feeling like you're getting your questions answered. Okay, looks like we got another question. Planning to take a class during the winter and an extra class for the spring, so I won't have to take them during. Would it change my deadline since I'm registered to graduate for this summer, but I'm hoping to finish by the spring? So yeah, Maria, that might change your deadlines for a couple things. I would definitely recommend if you want to come in for a walk-in, and then we can make those adjustments to your ed plan, and we can make the adjustments to your graduation checklist and get that sent out to you again, revised. So yeah, anyone who's thinking about making changes and you're afraid that might change some of your dates, that's something we can do pretty quickly in a walk-in appointment, and we can get that changed for you. But either way, you're still applying for graduation by Monday. Oh, that's another thing. So say you're planning to graduate in the spring or the summer, you submit your application and then it changes, right? So maybe instead of summer, you're going to graduate early in spring. That is something that we can always have moved, right? We can always request admissions and records to move it to an earlier time or a later time, right? Say maybe you don't do too well this semester, or you don't want to take as many classes in the spring, but you've already applied for graduation. We can always move it to fall or to summer if we need to. So just make sure you're communicating any changes with us, and then we can help you adjust that graduation date if necessary. Rebecca, repeat how to find the course equivalent document. You know what? Let me just go ahead and drop it in chat. I still have it open, so that is that spreadsheet for the course equivalent document that has some of our local community colleges. So if you guys want to grab that in chat, it's also on our website under ESM resources. You can find it there. And then again, also on your MyCSUB, you can go to your transfer credit report and view that there. And if you're having trouble with that stuff, again, that's something really quickly we can look at during walk-ins if you need to.
So if I want to change the graduation to spring, would I indicate that in the application, or do I need to wait till my plan has changed?
No, you can indicate that on the application. Yeah, so if you already know you're going to make those changes, and you don't have to have your ed plan or your graduation checklist changed. It's just for your own information if you want to. You can just submit it for spring instead of for summer.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep. I feel like we should have music or something in between the questions. All right, well, I know the session was scheduled to end at 12:30. Maybe we'll stick around for a couple more minutes. Jamie, did you have something?
I was just going to ask, if I filed for financial aid for like this school year, it should carry over to spring since that's when I'll be starting my credential, right? Okay, just wanted to make sure.
But for those of you who might be graduating mid-year though, so Jamie, honestly, I can't remember if you're blending in the spring or if you're
I'm graduating this semester, yeah.
Okay, good question. So if you submitted your application for FAFSA for the 2020-2021 school year, but you're graduating mid-year, you may have to update FAFSA and the financial aid office to let them know, because typically they're only awarding it for your undergraduate career, right? And then you have to change your status. So the financial aid office should be able to help you adjust that for the spring semester so that you hopefully get a payout.
Okay.
And right now, financial aid is working from home like we are. So for them, what I've been told is the fastest way to get a question answered is to email them. And so their email is finaid@csub.edu. I'll drop that in the chat too.
And then just real quick, we did start advising this week, plus there's like the grad workshops and like a bunch of weird meetings that we're supposed to be attending this week. For those of you that are submitting like contact request forms, just give us maybe like a day or so to look into it and respond. We do try to check that daily, the contact request and the liberal studies account. So if you did send us an email, just bear with us as we sort through it and take care of it. So like for those that didn't have the graduation application link, we just have to reach out to admissions and records, and then they will open up the graduation link. So we try to CC the students, and then they're usually really good about replying to all so that you know when it's been taken care of. So once they say, yeah, we're good to go, then you should be able to apply. So we'll try to be good about like making sure everybody's included. So that way you can kind of apply as soon as possible. I think the deadline is September 21st for spring. So we'll try to make sure that that's all taken care of before then.
And remember too, like if for some reason you don't get the link access before the 21st or something like that, please, please, please don't let it just go away, right? Don't just feel defeated like you can't apply anymore. Reach out to us and we will advocate on your behalf to apply late if we need to, especially if it's a link issue, right? That's not your fault. That's the system's fault. So just make sure you're reaching out to us if you run into any issues with anything over the next year. And if we take too long to answer emails, tell the dean we need another advisor. Just kidding, I didn't say that. Wink, wink. Thanks for the laughing emoji, Jessica. If we got the graduation week last semester and we were graduating this semester and paid, we don't have to worry about it. Yeah, so if you've already applied, you've already paid the fee, you probably have already gotten a response back from admissions and records, you're good and you don't need to worry about anything. FAFSA applications for the 2021-2022 school year should open October 1st. It's so crazy that they open so fast.
I do just want to mention one other thing in case anybody has questions about like the spring semester graduation. I know that's kind of on everybody's mind. President Zelezny is having a runner walk and talk this Thursday from 2 to 3. So I would definitely encourage you all to attend if you can. I'm sure like with everything going virtual for the spring, you all must have questions. We have questions, so it's good to just stay informed and keep up to speed with whatever's going on. So you should have gotten the email with the link. So that's this Thursday, 2 to 3 p.m. just in case anybody wants to attend. I know they've already mentioned like for graduation purposes of ceremonies, they have said, you know, you will not be forgotten. I think they're kind of waiting for the the clearance to, you know, gather in large groups again. But we really don't have any information past that. But I think it's good to just continue to bring up, especially, I mean, that's the whole purpose behind these walk and talk. So if y'all can attend, that would be a good idea, I think.
All right, if there's any last minute questions, feel free to ask, but if you are good to go, and this concludes our session. Virtual hugs to anyone who may want one or need one. I hope you all are doing well, and we miss you guys.
When is the video being posted?
I think we have to, well, you'll need to review it, make sure it's good to go, but I would think by the end of this week, because we have a few more workshops to go through up until Friday, I think, but we'll try to get it posted as soon as possible.
Okay.
There was another question in the chat. If the $70 fee covers cap and gown, it does not. It covers basically your degree, like the printing of your actual degree, mailing, and them doing the actual graduation check. The cap and gown is separate.
Unfortunately. Also, when do you guys pay for the cap and gown? So you can always check with the Runner bookstore. They're the ones who typically sell them. But the last time I talked to a student who had checked with them, they said that they weren't selling them at the moment, but I don't know if that's changed. So anything cap and gown related, you know, a frame for your diploma, all that like graduation accessories, I guess you could call them, would be through the Runner bookstore. Alrighty, guys, we'll let you go. Everyone have a good one. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully it was helpful. And good luck this semester and next if we don't talk to you before then.